provide shared social power, you have to go and work for the capitalist. That is a necessity. And that is the first disciplining force. Only when that force fails for one reason or another, that the police then have to come in and bash you on the head. Now in our situation, where the social power of capital is not yet manifest, the fellows use the bashing on the head as the first line of defense. It's not something on which you fall back. You do that first, because there's nothing else. It is in that sense that we get a qualitatively different situation in the third world. But of course, one could so many parallels of the abuses of power, seen both in the grand national sense, the state, the U.S. state, as well as, of course, the various instrumentalities of that state at state level and so on and so forth. You were coming back to something else.
I have a question I want to ask I think what has to be accounted for in the third world is find large masses of people are willing to accept authoritarian rule for long periods of time. And having lived in Liberia for a considerable amount of time, back in the 31 dictatorship, typified and having lived in Ghana several different periods under Nkrumah, and had to travel around for that. So I actually imagine that the people I knew, particularly say people who finished secondary school or seventh standard, really didn't ordinate the values the way we're talking about ordinating now. I have over and over had people say to me that they didn't care how rough the communist group of men was, as long as they got those hospitals up, got the roads built and so forth, and even in that position to a little spectrum deal come on the side, but they were talking about whether or not the kind of consumer's point of view, that if there are visible results that show that the people, for instance, the Liberians were hot for the southern regime, not so much because it was rough, because all the new houses were the upper bourgeoisie, and nobody ever put up any corporation house. I mean, that kind of Ghana, upper bourgeoisie was building this stuff, the other people were getting something too. Now my question was, is that a specifically, assuming what I said is true about their attitude toward nation battle, that is specifically West African variant of the third world that does not apply in West India, or would the Guyanese relations and others also sort of take a position that the authoritarian government pays off in terms of better health programs, better housing, more schools, more Bible?
I don't want to speak for West Africa here with any authority, but I will speak for the Caribbean. I feel that our people have always been very conscious of authoritarian practices and have responded to them very feelingly and have placed them, yes, in the first order of priority. And I say this even as a historian looking at the records, looking at the sorts of things for which workers rebelled at the plantation. When the dispute didn't always have to do with wages and economic issues. In fact, very often they would be sparked off by ill treatment from an overseer, or a way in which women were maltreated and so on. And in more recent times, both in Jamaica and in Guyana, when you speak speaking to common people, they would, in their, as it were, in their recollections, what is important in their environment, what they're complaining about, they would list highly something like police brutality. You were speaking to people in West Kingston at a particular point in time. You would make the connection between that brutality and unemployment, but they would first of all say a man has a right to walk down the street, or a youth has a right to walk down the street without the police treating them in a particular way. So I think that our people do have a sense of rejecting authoritarianism, certainly as it affects their own lives. What's probably true is that when economic factor is added to that, it comes out more sharply. That is to say, if your rights are being denied, and if in addition the goods are not being delivered, as you're suggesting, nothing is being built, then clearly people have all the more reason for seeing the connection between their lack of rights and the social economic situation. But even if some goods are being delivered, I would say that historically all people have had a sense of affront when their rights are being infringed.
But I have rivals West Africa, and I say that's my perception of African colors. Then I really feel that this wasn't true. That's why I preference that.
We take a final question. Please.
Pointing out that diversity is not actually going down and in other words, consider the government as and of course the present government in Guyana was really begin the colonization which naturally came over until either new intellectual things developed to conceptualize and take care of the specific structural development of society. Similarly, the other situation that allows variance, and this line of variance is being kept out of the production system. Not being recognized quickly, sort of slow death type, so that the whole system is being prolonged. And that gives a chance for the system to be underground for a while. You don't have to sterilize the state for security, and we have the old, very institutional system which neither more ways than it's last. And so you have an intermediary hang around for a while, where the process is going to change and we have to get for one last point. I think the point about the international atmosphere, also conditioning and those prolonging what is taking place. It was taken, and I think it will be a thing that has passed. For their own society, given socialism and one thing, they are very specific on what the rules of the game are or match. And when they deal with the fair work, two beginnings are played off too. In other words, maybe the problem is going to make and also having to do with several laws, instead of being very specific and say, look, where now the game is not socialist, right? And therefore we are doing it. So that also teaches that consumerism. And that leads to some sort of an undefined Marxist socialist system in terms of being upgraded and being created by the freedom.
Well, we've opened up a whole new area at the very end of this discussion period, so I won't be able to follow all of it. I would say, though, that I don't regard the systems about which I have been speaking, the system of international capitalist relations, as analogous to the international Marxist system. There is an international Marxist community, and there are linkages and influences, and there is hegemony, and so on and so forth within that system. But it is still essentially a system based on ideas, and at most the organizations which surround those ideas. Whereas the system to which I was alluding is a system that is based on production and based on actual social relations within our society. So they are by no means analogous. And for us, I think that while it is important to be continually on the alert that whatever we do in our own interest remains precisely that, validly in our own interest, I myself am always a little bit cautious of a preoccupation which might divert us from the principal contradiction. In our societies, the very soil has been organized, has been changed because of centuries of capitalist exploitation of that soil. It's as literal as that. The quality of the soil in, let us say, Jamaica is a product of X number of centuries of slave plantation exploitation. It is a consequence of the bauxite companies pulling out from the subsoil. It is a consequence of social pressures that have forced people into rocky land to cultivate marginal lands and has increased the population there, and so on and so forth. We are speaking about a system that is a part of us, not a sort of luxury which we may or may not choose. We live within that international system, and I'm suggesting that the first demands of our social life is to try and cope with that system. What occurs in relationship to international Marxism is a dimension about which we must be cautious, but it's a dimension that is certainly in sequence. It must be placed sequentially after we have dealt with the principal contradiction. And I thought in the way that you handled it, that you were treating them as analogous, as entirely comparable. I would say that we must deal first with the immediate problems of third world societies, and we will come up against the problems of the internationalization of Marxism and so on in the process. Now, if we have dealt intelligently by organizing our people in the first instance, then the strength of that organization will help us in relation to the second question. Okay. Thank you very much.